Is left tackle a big enough issue for the Chicago Bears to have to address it a little earlier in the draft than we thought? We'll talk about that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page. You do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. Only channel talks Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you stay in tune with us, man. A lot to get into here, as we heard from Ben Johnson at the owners' meetings, and he talked about the left tackle position. And, you know, hearing him talk about, you know, and we talked about this on the show, of course, but hearing him talk about, you know, where they felt like the team is at that spot, and hearing Dan Richard throughout this offseason talk about some of the issues that they have at that spot, essentially saying, right, we have traits of really good pieces on this team, but we don't have that guy that we feel is the starting left tackle there as of yet, is the go-to, the guy there as of yet. Is this something that the Chicago Bears might actually need to address in the draft? I did this topic on the Chicago Bears podcast a couple of days ago, and realistically speaking, right, like you would think that this is something where you feel confident enough about Ozzy Trapillo that you're able to push it off. But when you hear Ben Johnson's comments on the topic, give me a second there. He said there's a lot of uncertainty there. Said he's not sure the Bears will have Ozzy Trapillo during the 2026 season after Trapillo suffered a pretty serious injury with his ruptured patellar tendon. Johnson said it's hard to say when the Bears left tackle, or what the Bears left tackle position will look like this year or in 5 years. And when you hear that, or in 5 years, to me, now you're having a conversation of, okay, there is that doubt that kind of I have as well, right? Guys don't just bounce back from patellar tendon injuries 100% all of the time, right? Usually it takes time. We've seen the numbers. I've listed the numbers here on the show multiple times, right? Like 50% of the people in that second year start to kind of return to the player that they once were, but there is time that has to be taken there. This is a very serious injury for Ozzy Trapillo, and so I look at left tackle as something that needs to be addressed as importantly as the edge position, because you're talking about keeping Caleb Williams upright, and you're talking about protecting his backside, right? Like those are two things that I think you still need to be aware of, even though Caleb Williams' pocket awareness, his sack avoidance were all up this season. It was something that you could really see he was feeling even more comfortable in. And so you can't say that there is nothing there at the left tackle spot right now, right? I think with Jedrick Wills, you've got a very good upside player. The floor is what the floor is. We'll see if he ends up being able to get back to that form that he was in when he first got there. When you look at the Braxton Jones and him being up to 310 pounds per Ben Johnson, him being yoked, like I think that that's a good conversation as well for a guy who has been a starter, hopefully to try and reclaim his spot in the league and be able to go out there and win that left tackle job this season, and then you compete with Ozzy here in the future. But what I don't want this to be left up to, and why I think this could be something that is addressed via the draft here for the Chicago Bears, is you leave it up to chance, or you leave it up to the hope that all of a sudden Ozzy Trapillo is just going to magically come back. He's going to have no issues post-rehab. He's going to walk back onto that field, and he's going to be the dominant force that we saw him be when he was out here. I love Ozzy. I want Ozzy to return to form. I think that he has all the traits to do so. But there is that question of how is he going to bounce back? Is he going to turn back into 100% of the player that he was in that first year? Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Drop a Y for yes, drop a N for no, and make sure to drop a bear down as well. Do you feel like left tackle is something that the Chicago Bears should look in the draft to address this season, and possibly with some of that high capital that they have? Let me know how you guys feel, like I said, down in the comments below. Now, when you look at the draft this year, right, there's some guys that of course are out of reach of the Chicago Bears that I do feel like you know, you would have to essentially try and trade up for you to get into position to take a Monroe Freeling, if you would, or even a what's the other left tackle? Ione is interior. guy, but listen, even a Muoga, right, out of Miami, right? Like those are guys that are a little bit out of reach for the Chicago Bears. So I don't know if I see a scenario where the Bears trade up, but I do know that this is a scenario that I would be okay with if you are the Bears. If you see a guy that you identify and you say he's going to be a 10-year starter, he's going to be in that position, barring injury and all the things that we're dealing with here with Ostrich Pillow, but he's going to be somebody who can step into that role, be successful pretty quickly here. We've got a bridge guy to get us to that point, and then once he steps in, he'll have to compete with Ozzie. If he's able to beat out Ozzie, that's who we'll roll with for the future here with the team. You take that guy. And I get it, log jam at left tackle. Oh, you've got all of these left tackles. You got a log jam at left tackle. What are you going to do? If I find 2 left tackles that are incredibly talented, you trade one, you move on, you get draft capital back, you call it a day. Bottom line. If you find a guy that is better than Ostrich Pillow, you hold on to Ostrich Pillow through his injury, you get him back to health, you ride out both of their contracts for a little bit of time there, and then you sell high when you get an opportunity to on one of those 2 left tackles. Like, that is the bottom line of this. Left tackle is such an important position to me. Having bookend tackles is so important to me. Y'all saw me last year on the channel. Y'all saw me sitting here dang near in tears because Caleb Williams had protection from both sides and from the interior. Like, to me, there is nothing more that you can improve upon, even though, and I understand the need that you have at edge. I understand the need that you have at defensive interior, the need that you have at safety. I'm not saying that these aren't needs, but if you find a guy, if you identify a guy, especially with the Bears' best player available model, which Ryan Poles has said multiple times he plans on continuing to use, that probably means you're not going to get a player that you want. If we're sitting at 25 and we're going, Zion Young might be there, that's cool. Or, Akeem Messidor is there. I love Akeem Messidor. But if they go, that's cool. Who's the best player available at that position? If that is a tackle, if that is somebody on the offensive side, I'm not going to be upset about that, because I do think more times than not, we have a tendency to go, we need this, so just take the best player for that position at the position we need. And I think you end up looking back at former All-Pros that you end up missing out on. You end up looking back at former Pro Bowl caliber players, former top players in the league, guys who were elite role players on the team, because you wanted to go based on the strongest need that you had. There is a balance there. But Ryan Poles has been honest with us through this entire process, and I don't think that he plans on stopping the honesty here when he says that he's going to go best player available at these positions. I think that that is the case, and I think that there's a case that can be made when you get to some of these spots here, especially when you get to some of these picks that the Chicago Bears are going to have in the second round, right? Best player available might end up being an offensive player, might end up being an offensive tackle. Now, again, wide receiver is a little bit iffy there, but again, I do think you still live in that same world of, if you end up looking back on it and going, we passed on X, Y, and Z for a solid piece, but not the best player available, you usually end up regretting that decision. How many of those best player availables that we passed on because we wanted to go need did we look back on and go, dang it, you know who would have looked real nice in this Bears defense? Terrell Suggs. Like, we've done this time and time again and played this experiment out. Again, I'm not saying, and I think this is the part that I do want to, be expressively clear here on. If the best player available is a left tackle, don't go reaching for one. Right? Left tackle is a need as well. If the best player available is an edge, you take an edge. If the best player available is defensive interior, you take defensive interior. I think that's the world that I would rather have the Bears live in, but I do think that left tackle should be a priority coming into this draft. I do think that left tackle should be something that you don't just push off and say, oh, I hope to the heavens that the left tackle position gets answered at some point here. I don't think that you can live in that world either if you are a Bears fan right now. And so for me, I look at this as an opportunity for you to go out there and address something that I think is still a massive need. I get it. Braxton Jones is bulked up. I need to see where the weight went. Did it go to his legs? Because if it didn't, he's still probably going to get bull rushed over. I get it. Jedrick Wills shows a ton of upside. But there is the major question mark on he sat out an entire season because he wanted to get himself healthy, which is right, learning from Baker Mayfield, learning how the game is played and learning what's been done. Maybe that was the right move for him. Maybe landing him here in Chicago is going to be the answer for you in the long run. But I think that you need to know that you have some sort of answer coming out of this draft. And so don't be surprised if left tackle is one of those positions that the Bears try and find an answer on in this draft. If you were the Chicago Bears and you had an opportunity to go, let's say you find a guy that you identify at 25 and you say, hey, we feel that he is an answer for this question and we have to take him 25. Would you take that player over an edge, or are you locked in on we're just going defense no matter what? Best player available. We need the best defensive player that we can get at 25. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. As always, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down, one love. I know this is a little bit different than how we've been doing it. JC's getting used to the work schedule. We're going to try and get things figured out here with where the show is where the morning breeze is gonna end up going. We don't want to stop the morning breeze. We're just trying to get things situated here. So appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love like you guys continue to do, man. As always, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Bed down, one love. Peace.